Hey everybody, now we are in lesson 2 where we talk about fundraising events. So let's jump in here, see what this is all about. So in the first place, why would you even throw an event? What's the point of having all these people get together just so that you can ask them for money or get them to pay money? Well, it's really an excuse and it's convenient. So by excuse, I mean, rather than asking someone, hey, can you give me $100 for my political campaign? You can say, hey, come to this really cool event that we're hosting for my political campaign. Yeah, it costs $100, but it's gonna be super cool. So it's an excuse for someone to get something out of it. Of course, the event might cost $10 per person to put on, and they're paying $100, so you're making $90 off of it. But it's a reason to ask people for money. And it is a convenient one too, because you're getting everybody together in one room, and there's more that you can get out of them when you have them face to face. Speaking of which, it's a good way to form a face-to-face connection. So this goes two ways. So it's a good way for you to form a connection with that donor, but and in doing that, you can ask them for more money later down the road. You can ask them to come volunteer for the campaign. They're certainly gonna support you, vote-wise, and you'll have a deeper connection with them so that they'll remember to get out there and actually vote on election day, because that can be a problem even for people that are giving money to political campaigns. They can still forget to vote. And at the end of the day, that's what you need. So there's that aspect of it, but then there's also it's an opportunity for them to form a face-to-face, deeper connection with you, and that's really what they're going to be paying for. So they'll probably, they'll give you some money because they are interested in politics, they believe in what you believe in, and they want to see their community heading a certain way, but they're paying to come to this event for all of those reasons, but more so because they want the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one, so that you will better remember them, or if they need you for something in the future, then they'll feel like they have a bit of a preferential, not treatment, but they'll already have your ear a little bit. They'll know who you are. That's one of the reasons that people give. And when it's an in-person event like this, they can form that face-to-face connection with you. So it's a good opportunity for them as well. Third, when you have people in a room like that, you can ask them for more money. If you ask someone to pay $100 to come to an event, or pay $100 and just do a donation online, it's much better to have them at the event there in person. It's not quite money-wise isn't the same, because you have to pay to put on the event, so you're not making enough money as if they were just to give you $100 online. But it's better to have them there in person because it deepens the connection with them, and you can ask them for more money in creative ways at the event, and you can try and get them to volunteer for the campaign, which we have here is volunteer signups. Also, people tend to bring other people with them to events like this. Maybe they pay for a ticket or two, and then them and their husband to come, but then they also bring their teenage kids maybe, and you can creatively rope those kids or friends or whoever into being part of the campaign as well. Okay, so let's talk the logistics now of putting on one of these events. So the first thing is the location. So you could go with a rich, notable person's home. If you have a friend that has a big, nice, cool house and they are willing to host this for you, then that's a really great option. Indoors or outdoors, either way works. Second would be a local business. That's what this photo is from here. That's some members of the Sacramento Stonewall Democrats when I was president of that organization, and that's with our Congresswoman Doris Matsui in the pink jacket, and yeah, she's still the Congresswoman out there. And this was actually a fundraiser for Sac Stonewall. She was just generous enough to come and be our guest of honor and help create a little bit of a draw to get people there, and in her pink blazer. Fun fact, I had pink eye during that event. That was gross and embarrassing. And I remember at the end of the event, somebody, one of my fellow board members, said that they heard the congresswoman say to her staffer that was there, "I heard somebody at that event had pink eye. Do you have some Purell hand sanitizer?" God, it's so terrible. It's gross. Anyway, so this was at a. I think I talked about this event in another lesson here in the course, but it was at a lobbying firm's office, like on a pretty high floor, looking over the California State Capitol. It was beautiful. So if you know somebody that has like a cool office, it could be like maybe your friend has like a restaurant or a winery, or even like more like ag industrial type thing, and they have a big warehouse, but it's an open space where you could like string up some lights and have some tables and make it like look pretty cool. Anything like that works. A good option is always a community park. If you live somewhere where the weather is nice and you can get people together, then it also has that feel of like civic engagement, because it's a park that is, you know, probably created and maintained by the local government. You're running for local office, just has like that like all around like good vibe. Has that Leslie Knope kind of vibe. And then, of course, you could always do like a standard like hotel ballroom sort of thing. And that's if you're hosting a pretty big event, you could probably do that. And it's easy too, because they have all-in-one, you know, they have like catering services and they set everything up for you. It's easy for people to find and get to, and there's signage. But it's expensive when you do something like that. And it also feels a little bit like not very special. It's like, okay, we're in like this regular kind of hotel ballroom with, you know, maybe they have those like the wall that they like the wheels in between the rooms and has like upholstery or carpet looking on it. So, you know, it gets a little whatever and like not very special. Okay, so now let's talk about food.
Well, I'll have some of the yellow, and don't get cheap on me. This bread pudding is extra runny tonight.
So the big idea with the food is to go cheap. I know that sounds bad, but people aren't coming to this event for the food. They're going there because they want to support your campaign. They want some access to you, get some FaceTime with you, and they'll, if they care about anything, it'll be like having a drink or two. And so we'll talk about that in just a second. So yeah, the idea is to go cheap, and you know, if you can get food donated from anywhere, that's a great option, and actually easier than you would imagine. And you can always like DIY if you're doing it at a community park or something. Maybe some of your family is willing to do it like potluck style and bring stuff for people to eat. Have it like big giant picnic style. But the idea here is like, don't worry about it too much. People aren't coming there for the food. No one's really gonna care if there's not a lot of food or if it's not that great. Literally, it's one of the last things to worry about. This isn't like a wedding where you want guests to really enjoy that. And no, that's not how this works. But drinks, on the other hand, something like a political event is meant to be a little bit more like festive in nature. It's meant to be like a party atmosphere. It's like like let's go and do this, and that sort of environment. People are gonna want to have a drink or two, in my experience. I know I am not afraid to have a drink or two at a political event. So if you can do beer and wine hosted, that is the best way to do it. I don't think you need to have a full bar available to people hosted. That can be a bit much. But beer and wine you can, or just wine if that's all you're able to swing, then that's really helpful and helps the event. It's much easier to get liquor and beer and wine donated than you would think. You can just ask local wine shops. I've heard of people doing that very easily. When I was running that local political organization, Stonewall, our fundraising chair was able to get like cases and cases and cases of wine donated for some events that we were hosting, and it was like so much wine. We were having a hard time getting rid of it and using it. But the one call out there is that whoever does donate it, they have to record that down as a political campaign contribution. So just like they would be writing a check to you and you have to record that down, then they would need to do that as well. So you can help them. You would use the same old forms that you would use when you're collecting donations from other folks for your event. And then something like water and soda, you can just buy it and have it there at the event. And like same old, and go cheap and have it there available. But you definitely do want that available. If you're at a, this might get a little bit different. If you're at like a local restaurant or a bar, they'll have their own rules around this kind of stuff. So you want to check on that. So one thing for an event is like having stars or honorary guests. Hillary with Queen Bee. That would definitely classify as a star or honorary guest if you had Beyonce and Jay-Z at an event for you. I don't think you're going to, so we'll skip over them for now. But the idea is that you want to create a draw to your event. If somebody knows that the mayor is going to be there, or if somebody like you have some sort of connection to, like a notable musician or actor or whatever, people kind of go, somebody that people get a little gaga, maybe Lady Gaga could come to your event, then you'll want them there because it creates a draw. So ideas would be celebrities, musicians, local elected officials, retired officials. I know that in Sacramento, the mayor, at one time, this woman named Heather Fargo, she would come to a lot of local political events, and people always loved seeing her there. And people would come to an event more if they knew that she was going to be there. So somebody like that in your community. Maybe it's somebody who's been retired for a long time and they're really, really old now and people haven't seen them in a long time. But you can get them to come to your event, somebody like in their 90s or whatever. People would be like, ooh, I haven't seen them in so long. I can't believe they're still doing so well. Would love to see them. Things like that. So think about it in a couple different angles, different ways. And also don't think that this has to be like Beyonce or Lady Gaga or Hillary Clinton or something to come into your event. You could just, if there's a local band that people kind of know about or something, that's still a draw too. You can say, oh, like we're gonna have live music with, like whatever the band's name is, and people are like, oh, I don't know who they are, but they sound pretty cool, and I get to see free, cool, like live music. So that works as well. And then, of course, if you do get some of those people, then you'll want to, promote the heck out of it. So feel free to use their name and pictures of them and all that, but include it in all your materials, your email blasts, and everything like that. You're trying to get a draw by using them, so promote it. Okay, so this is kind of the nitty-gritty for political events that people don't necessarily know about, but they do it in like a host committee kind of way. So if you guys are wondering what that is, it means that there's different like levels of tickets that you can buy to the event, or different like levels of like hosting it that you can. So the main way they do this is for recognition. So if somebody knows that the mayor of your town is going to be at this event, and you can, and they really want the mayor's ear for something, or they want the mayor to know that that they're like out there and involved in the community or whatever, then they can choose to sponsor the event at a higher level. And then their name would be included in all the materials and like the host committee levels or whatever. Or perhaps it's just someone that is like really wanting their name out there because they own a local business that has their name attached to it and they're trying to drive business, like whatever the reason could be, but people would want some sort of recognition out of it. That's the idea of it. Excuse me. And if you have honored guests or like you were able to get the former mayor to come, but you don't want to ask him or her to pay $1,000 to be like on the like host committee level or whatever, you could just put their name on there. You can be like a little wibbly wobbly with it. And so just like close up here so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is just an old flyer that I found for something I was invited to a long time ago. And you can see they did like an ice cream for change theme for it. So this is this guy, Evan Lowe. He's a member of the California State Assembly and from like the Bay Area. And you can see they have like, yes, I would like to attend as a like Sunday sponsor, $2,500, a triple scoop sponsor, $500, parfait sponsor, $1,000. See, they just like put some like cutesy stuff around it to like distinguish these different levels. And then everybody that's on the like host committee is mentioned over there on the right-hand side. So, and then they see I have like the sponsorship levels up there. But really the idea is to just get people to give more money. Like no one really cares what the level is necessarily called. But you can see like how much money people have given and like who's behind this person and like who has their back. That's what you can see, like all these different people that were supporting Evan's campaign at that time. I think this was his first... I think he was elected to the assembly in 2012, and it looks like this event was in 2011. So, yeah, anyway, so that's the idea. You can do something like, say you're running in New York City for city council, you could do like you could have like Empire State Building sponsor, $2,500, like Chrysler Building sponsor, $1,000, and then whatever, like different buildings or different landmarks like Central Park, Prospect Park, Battery Park, like some sort of, you just have a theme to it like that. Okay, so now for promoting the event. You guys like that picture? All right, so you can create a Facebook event for it. Of course, it's like an easy way to have a marker for it and get people to know about the event. And you can also like share it, and then you could run Facebook ads actually to try and get more people to attend it. I don't know if an ad is necessarily the best way to get people to come. It's more like one-on-one asks. You can do email blasts about it, certainly. It's a very common, very easy way to get the word out there about it. I don't know how effective it is, but you're definitely going to want to do those email blasts about it. So this is probably the most effective way, and this is the most common way that politicians are raising money today. So they call it call time, and basically you have a list of people in front of you that are donors or potential donors. You call them up and ask them to come to your event and to give you money to do it. That's the bottom line. That's how it works. So this is what I was referring to a minute ago when I said I would sit down with a big sheet of paper and call them all. That was, while I wasn't running for office as a candidate, I was the president of a political organization and I was responsible for raising money for it. So I would sit down and have my little call time for events that we were having and call people up and ask them to come. So that's what you're going to do. So it's been a little while since I've sat down and done this myself. And I was thinking that you can probably do text time just as easy as you could do call time in the past. It's not as high pressure of an ask because when you're on the phone with someone, there's a little more pressure behind that interaction because it's voice to voice. But you could certainly sit down and text everybody, text all of those people. And people see their text messages and respond to them, kind of. But I mean, it's kind of a trade-off. I mean, how many of you guys pick up your phone when there's a phone number calling you? I know people that don't even pick up the phone when they know the person that's calling them. They're like, ooh, why is that person calling me? So like culture is changing, and maybe it has to be a text message today rather than a phone call. So you can play around with that and see what works best for you. And you can like kind of share the love and have some of your volunteers text supporters as well, trying to get them to come to the event. So if somebody receives 2 text messages from 2 different people about the same event, they're more likely to actually like reply to either one of you or to come to the event. Okay, so during the event, so you've got your event all set up and now it's happening. So like, what do you actually do there? So you'll definitely want to have a program, but you're going to keep it short. Keep it under 10 minutes. And it doesn't have to be this big, long, dramatic thing. You know, you're not like Oprah giving her speech at the Oscars about the Me Too movement. Don't have to do something like that. But you do want to have a little bit of fire behind your voice. You want to get your platform out there, or your message rather. So go back and revisit that chapter 2 materials that I've talked about this entire freaking time, and see your 2-minute pitch that you put together. And so start with that, kind of elaborate on a few points. Maybe you have somebody like a notable guest that's there and they introduce you. Forgot to mention, at the beginning of your program, you want to introduce and thank any elected officials that are there. So this is very, very, very common practice. Like, if you don't do it, you will be breaking protocol. If you're having a political event, if there's any elected officials that are there in the audience, you introduce them and you thank them for being there. And you start with people that hold the lowest office and go up to the top. So if I was hosting an event, I would say, I would thank my city council members for being there, and then thank the assembly member from, my state assembly member that's there, and then say my congresswoman is there. I would thank, I'm not counting on all these people being at, political event for you, but it would be great. So then you thank your congresswoman, and then your governor is there, and you thank your governor. So there's not clear cut rules about who is more senior to another. Like here in New York, a New York City Council member, that's a full-time gig, and they represent a lot of people in City Hall. A lot of substantive policy is created that affects that person's life, and it's a pretty big deal job being a city council member in New York City. But state assembly is a half-time job because the New York State Assembly and State Senate, they only meet half of the year. So it's considered technically a part-time job. But state is traditionally above city. So what do you do in a situation like that? Is the assembly member more high up than the city council member? I think that's how I would do it, but it's got to be kind of a call for you in your area. So that's for the program. Of course, you thank all the sponsors and volunteers, and light a little fire in the room about why you're doing this. But definitely keep it under 10 minutes. So make sure to talk to every single guest that is there. I know when you're attending a party, it's easy to sit in your little area with your friends that you know and kind of BS for a little bit, have a drink or two, have some laughs, and then leave. When this is your campaign event, you got to be working that room. You're like RuPaul on the runway, honey. You're supposed to be working it. So you're going around to every single person and make sure that you have at least a quick chat with them. Not just a hello and a handshake, but a little chat with them as well. And something I want you to say to everybody is right here. I couldn't do this without you. So you say that directly to them, and you say, could not do this without you. You make it about them, and you say how much you really need them. It shows that you're committed to the to doing this as a joint effort. It makes them feel responsible for your campaign and more tied into it in the long run. Makes you look a little bit humble, which can be helpful. That's a really important thing to tell people as you're working that room at your campaign event. The last thing here is having sign-up sheets for volunteering, as well as like envelopes and cards for more donations. So I know it's like, well, geez, these people are already here. They paid money to be here. I'm going to be hitting them up again. Yeah, you are. So it's just something that you need to do, and especially with the volunteering, it's a different ask. You know, you've asked them to give money, but you know, you can also ask them to volunteer. You can plug it in your program when you're up there speaking, and have volunteers, campaign volunteers that are there with sign-up sheets, or it's probably better to do it on have them do it on their cell phone on a Google Doc, or like a Google form that goes into a spreadsheet. Super easy to set that up and do, totally free. And same with donations. You can have the form up on the smartphone or an iPad of that volunteer, and so that if you're asking people for donations at that time, they can just do it right there on the phone. Okay, so that's everything that I have for you for the event. Hope this is useful for you guys and helpful, and I hope that you have some really fantastic campaign events. Thanks.